Hola, buenas. Hello,
There you
everybody.
go.
How you doing?
Hola, Rafa.
Hello, Alberto. How's been your week, your
How
month?
how are you? You've seen
Not
this
too bad.
before. It's a deja vu.
Déjà vu. Salud.
Here we are again, one more month, offering some shelter, some space. I can see Alan joining. I can see some amigos joining. We're gonna spend Sunday early noon time, Vermut time, with you, talking about films, drinking some tragos, no?
Welcome, everyone. This is our Vermut. Well, our Vermut Cinematic is a platform that has been rolling for over 10 years now, promoting independent Ibero-American cinema in Scotland, in UK, and now with the pandemic and all these lockdown regulations, we have moved our events to online, which is actually a chance to get to a wider audience, to get to be seen by people all over the planet, which is a great feeling. This month, we have a regular program that has been featured in our calendar for a few years already. It's a it's a program of films that look at the diversity, at the different gaze, at films made by women. I remember when we started, we were philosophizing and investigating, what was the problem here, why there was such a big number of women in film schools and such a small number of productions coming out signed by a woman. That maybe has changed very fast. I don't think, in particular, the younger generations, I don't think there's a problem there. That we are seeing amazing films coming out, signed by women. Well, Pilar Palomero is still recovering from the Goyas, I guess. And it's not the only one. It's an amazing number of female filmmakers giving us amazing films to watch. So, Alberto, what do you want to say about the program this month?
So many things, Raf. You touch. It's true that when we started with Mujeres being a regular feature in our calendar 5 years ago, we were looking at structural things happening in the industry, and we were looking in particular when selecting the films at the idea of the female gaze, the academic and traditional concept of the female gaze. And across the years, we've been misbehaving in the sense of trying to amplify or bring new female gazes or discover new perspectives that will enrich and make more plural that concept of the female gaze. So probably what you found in the program, and like in previous Mujeres programs, it won't be a conventional program of films. In most of the cases, you probably have seen a desire to experiment. I think that's very clear in most of the films, whether that is in the space of non-fiction, documentary, almost in horror, in the case of Monstruo Dios. But you see that desire of experimenting, and we hope that you liked it, that you appreciated these films. That again is not the traditional conventional comedy, mainstream short film that sometimes you can see or that sometimes we give you, and it has that desire to experiment at the core of the program.
And well, the first question was about the title, no? The Solo Son Peces. I know it goes with the one part, a small part of the argument, but where did it come from? What do you mean with Solo Son Peces? Only is fish only.
Pues fue muy difícil para nosotras poner el título porque, bueno, esperábamos que fuese saliendo en algún momento. Entonces, entre toda una lista fue uno de los títulos que sacamos porque según fuimos viendo cómo se cultivaban los peces, cómo se criaban los peces en la piscifactoría, vimos el paralelismo que había también con la propia población saharaui. Entonces, ahí fue cuando fue cogiendo cada vez más peso esa idea de que obviamente no estamos hablando solamente de peces y jugar con esa ironía y con ese absurdo en el propio título.
talking about your gaze and how that transforms the original project. We have this Sahrawi woman fishing in what it looks like a desert. Sorry. We have this scene with the tea, which cannot caught my eye a lot. It is reversed. The tea disappears or comes. What is? How that come from? How it come into the film? What do you want to say with that?
Mucha gente nos pregunta por esa secuencia, porque sí, es como un poco rara. Pero ahí lo que estaban hablando ellas era sobre su proceso, sobre sus idas, o sea, cómo se fueron a estudiar en Argelia y luego cómo volvieron, ¿no? Entonces, mezclando esa idea de esas idas y venidas de la gente joven que marcha a estudiar fuera y luego retorna ese conocimiento a su tierra, pues queríamos también hacerlo a través del té, como, bueno, es una ceremonia del té que cogen la tetera, echan en un lado, luego cambian de vasos todo el rato y están también de alguna forma con esas idas y venidas, como de adelante hacia atrás, y pensábamos que jugar también ahí con el tiempo y con la marcha atrás y con ir hacia adelante, porque mezclamos las dos, se reforzaba un poco esa idea.
It also adds on something that you said earlier, this tone that you bring in, this outsider perspective with an element of irony and absurd that we see in the film and that is there, no? I think it's very honest from you, not shying away. We've seen this in other films when someone from outside comes to make a documentary and it's a very honest perspective to try to balance these elements of irony in conversations, in the framing, in everything, in the shot that Rafa was saying, the final scene.
Sí, o sea, al final es como comentábamos antes, partíamos de esa mirada crítica también desde donde veníamos nosotras y entonces no podemos dejar de ver la situación como un absurdo, ¿no? Y esa espera que también se muestra en el cartel con esa situación también de pescar en el desierto, ¿cómo nos lo podemos imaginar? Obviamente no es como aparece con la caña de pescar, pero sí que nos remite a que, bueno, pues que es una situación que lleva mucho tiempo, también nos habla también de su forma de entender el tiempo y en contraposición a la nuestra, ¿no? Porque si viviesen el tiempo como lo vivimos aquí en Europa, se habrían vuelto locas, ¿no? Entonces, ese acercamiento de mirada también pasa por ahí porque desde ese absurdo igual nos hace cuestionarnos nuestra implicación y que, bueno, esa necesidad también de cambio de alguna forma.
The film, we say the three characters are female, these three women working together and in rather precarious environment, no? The electricity goes off, the computers go off, even the lab is not like any lab we understand in Europe, no? The lab is kind of empty for the untrained eyes. But also there's very few male presence, and when they turn up, they almost laugh about their jobs. How did you find working with these three women? How distant are they from our communities in Europe? How did you bridge that gap?
Pues conocimos su historia en un trayecto en coche, porque estábamos preguntando por proyectos innovadores que tuviesen que ver con la gestión del agua, llevados por gente joven. Era como un poco las preguntas que hacíamos. Y nos hablaron de esta piscifactoría y según escuchamos hablar de ella, nos pareció que era nuestra historia, ¿no? Entonces, es cierto que una vez que llegamos allí y las conocimos, nos encantó, nos gustaron mucho cómo nos explicaban su trabajo, cómo vivían el día a día, cómo desde lo pequeño contaban grandes cosas. Entonces, claro, es cierto que nos entendíamos a nivel lingüístico, pero había un choque cultural muy fuerte. Entonces, fue fundamental para nosotras también la colaboración con la Escuela de Cine de los Campamentos, porque con ellos y con su trabajo no solamente hicimos ese nexo y esa traducción lingüística, sino también ese acercamiento cultural que nosotras no habríamos podido conseguir.
And there's an element here of women working with women, women uniting women and the power of the collective. And in other films is to start a revolution. In this case is to do something entrepreneurial, innovative. So I don't know if you could like expand a little bit more on that aspect of the project itself, of how it's going, and if it's something that you saw in your experience in the camps that happens more often, or this was more like a one-off, like a beautiful exception.
El papel de las mujeres en la población saharaui va desde un compromiso muy fuerte a nivel estructural también y a nivel social. O sea, es verdad que tienen un papel muy activo y es sorprendente ver cómo se estructura la sociedad y cómo forman parte de todos los órganos de decisión, aparte de lo que a veces podamos pensar por prejuicios que podamos tener desde donde miramos también, ¿no? Entonces, el conocer también la Unión de Mujeres Saharauis, el conocer hay unos departamentos también de gestión del agua que están coordinados por mujeres. O sea, una de las bases de cuando se formaron los campamentos fue a través del trabajo en red de las mujeres que con sus propias melfas construyeron las primeras tiendas que se instalaron allí. O sea, el papel de la mujer es un papel muy activo y que tiene mucha presencia y para nosotras también por eso era importante que fuesen protagonistas las mujeres, porque en la piscifactoría también trabajan hombres, pero nosotras sí que centramos nuestra visión en el trabajo de ellas, aparte porque de forma natural también ellas trabajaban juntas, pero también porque veíamos que bueno, llevaba más allá también el discurso y contaba algo más de la sociedad saharaui que se podía leer entre líneas de alguna forma.
Your work and the work of Al Borde Films will be closely followed
by
our marks now. It's been a great discovery.
Thank you very much for having some time with us, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for your amazing work. We are also followers from you. And thank you, Fiona, for the translation and for making easy this conversation.
You're welcome.
So have a
thank you, Paula.
great Vermut time.
Salud.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Paula.
Let's welcome Clàudia Vernis, the director of Sin Postre.
Hola,
No,
Clàudia.
except for you.
Hola.
Hello, Clàudia.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay? Yes.
Yes.
Fine.
All good. How are you? Where are you? Sunny? Somewhere sunny?
Yes, somewhere very sunny. I'm in Tarragona.
I knew you were in Scotland. Anyway, but thank you very much for joining us. Hold a second. I'm just putting myself a bit of wine.
Thank you for having me. Hold on. I'm not
No.
very loudly. There we go.
Well, Sense Postre, another film that comes from this kind of, it seems a never-ending Catalan film industry of new talent, new films coming out that are all amazing. There are some kind of common themes or common elements that we can talk later. But in this one, the big paradox there is that it's a calm, it looks like summer day in the countryside. And that is a huge contrast with the the torment that the Marina is suffering. No, the split with her boyfriend. She's uncomfortable with her own body, with her family. She just cannot stop. How did you come up with that? The idea to make this film?
The idea, the idea itself of the film came out of a necessity to want to make the film. It was kind of a practical decision that I made to kind of break with the things that I was doing before and try to come into this filmmaking. I hadn't studied filmmaking, and so I wanted to try and make a short film. And because I didn't really have that many contacts and I didn't have that many resources, all I had was my summer home, or where I grew up, a few friends who were up for it, and because I was going through a similar time of starting or ending something, starting something new, it brought back memories of a summer that I spent there, and that kind of the tension between summer break and holidays and everything is just warm and objectively beautiful, and yet you're going through that period of torment or inside, or your those tensions. That's how it came about. It was a practical decision, and yet it was a need to explore the memory of something as well.
And something we love, Claudia, and Rafa kind of discovered or well made this reflection about the film is that contrast between the peaceful environment and the inner torment and whirlwind of emotions going on there. We really like in that film that kind of contrast. In the film, you make use of very big motifs or cinematic motifs, like the fire you were talking about. The need to regenerate. Nothing better than a fire that it becomes so powerful in the film. And also, I don't know if you could tell us a bit more about the use of fire, but also mirrors and reflections. We see a very smart use of mirrors and reflections in the film.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I mean, one thing that I wanted was, obviously when you're exploring your memory, and it's a memory of an eating disorder, one of the things that I didn't really want to do is to have a very clear character arc. Well, not because I didn't want to, but because it was almost impossible. I felt like it would have been disingenuous to end the film with everything is solved, because it doesn't happen like that. And so it made sense for it to happen during a 24-hour period, or during one day, where it's just, a snapshot of someone's life. And I mean, in my opinion, it does have an ending where things might get better. But so on that 24-hour period, I thought it fun to do it during the St. John celebrations, because it's a time in Catalonia during the summer where it's just festivities and it's fun and it's and it often happens that during a time where you're supposed to celebrate, it contrasts, or it makes your internal turmoil even more, or it remarks it even more. So, and then I imagined the play with the fire, and the very obvious connection with regeneration and rebirth. It wasn't like a thing that I did at the beginning, but then I was like, well, yeah, St. John is that is one of the first things you think about. And with the reflections, it was a very obvious connection, because it's just an obsession that you have with looking at yourself, and yet you're, it's the reflection of yourself, and yet you're not able to really objectively see yourself. So I thought those things were like happy coincidences, and yet very useful thematic objects that I could use.
Across the program, the female body is at the center, and in this film is everything is at the center. And we really like the choice of the actress and the way you direct her, or she moves in front of the screen, comes in, and it's a very physical film. Obviously, the body is the center of the film, but I don't know if you could tell us more about this magic way in which Marina moves in front of the camera.
Actually, that's really interesting. I mean, I'm going to confess that I didn't really have that much time. Marina, we met completely at random watching a short films festival, and we became really good friends. And she was studying theater at the time, and I wanted to make this short film, so I contacted her. I kind of wrote it for her, and I knew Marina's always has always been a dancer. She's a dancer. She was studying theater, so that kind of her physicality kind of gave way to to how the role was going to be played. And because it was based on myself, I've never been a dancer, but I've played the violin. So the kind of performality of that gives way to this hyper fixation on the body, because you're seeing yourself being watched by other people, because they're watching you perform, dance, music, whatever. And also because the sets were my granddad's house, the blocking had to be really nailed down from the beginning. So it was more of it kind of became the dancing background of Marina, also my own background informing the role, and also the sets themselves became kind of like this theater, this performatic thing and also the other actors, Neus and Miquel, also come from theater. So it was almost not conscious, but then it kind of evolved that way. So I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah, no, it's there. Something, moves choreographically. The movement of, the way you move the camera and the way she comes in and actors come in the scene is something we really liked of the film. We really liked it. I think you plant some images, some motifs across the film that are very powerful. You mentioned how you deal with memory, in this case, personal memories. Memory is blurry, and we see that in the water, muddy waters. It's not transparent, it's not translucent, it's not, and we really like that too. The use of water and reflection, as you were saying, as a faithful picture of who you think you are, or what you see, or what you remember.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Pues Claudia, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much for finding the time.
It was really fun. I was really nervous. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
No. It's hard to bring the anarchy of cinematic into this realm of Zoom conversations, but this has always been a very relaxed space.
I'm gonna go get another one.
A film that we must confess we're a bit nervous about, and an interview we're a bit nervous in the sense of we feel reflected in this film. Cinematic spirit has always been messy, audiovisual circus, where there is chaos, but it also tries to have or to reclaim the essence of traditional storytelling, of the magic of cinema. And we feel that this film, we were shocked. We loved the film because it had that essence of what we think we do at Cinematic, in a sense. And it has the anarchy that I think we have, and we'll try to put some order, or put anarchy into an anarchic interview. We'll see when Rafa gets back. But in the meantime, something important when showing this film internally in the team and with other people since Friday when it premiered, is a film where audience get a very different reflection on the film, whether they know who is Fernando Fernán Gómez and Emma Cohen, or if they don't. No, for those who don't know who they are, I mean, Fernando Fernán Gómez, since 1943, the early days of Franco regime until the contemporary days, is the face that has changed, and with the change of his face and aging, Spain has changed. He's a celebrated actor who has been in a overwhelming number of films as an actor. He's writer, he's director, and he had a very beautiful, special love relationship with Emma Cohen, who was an even more magic artist, in the sense that was also actress, writer, and director too. And from these two very powerful characters, Helena constructs this love triangle that, again, we're very nervous, but without further ado, if you want, Rafa, let's welcome Helena and try to put some order or anarchy into the morning.
Hi.
Hola, Helena.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank
How are
you.
you? Where are you?
Good. I'm in Madrid. I'm in the house of the film.
Yes,
La
yes, I
Luna,
thought
La
so.
Luna.
Yes, I'm at the moon. Yeah.
How's called the moon? How beautiful.
Yeah,
Well,
you have to
Alberto,
come. You have to come. You are invited to come here anytime you are in Madrid.
I felt something like very powerful, just thinking on stepping inside that house.
Good, good. It's magical, actually. Yeah, it is. It is very magical. I was listening to you, and I love the way you introduce everything about anarchy, because I feel a lot of anarchy inside this house too. So I feel very related.
This is a great messy relationship between a granddaughter and
exactly.
some,
Exactly. The film is not about Fernando Fernan Gomez or Elena. Their work and is huge. I mean, the Catalan Filmothèque is giving a whole review to the subject, and we could be talking here for days. But the film, you use the word mystical, and I wanted to speak about that, or start the chat with that subject. No, that you go to this house. The house is kind of as if they have left it. The text from John Berger talks about what remains after being in this world, what is there, what you leave behind, what's the time or the moment where the dead and the life kind of get closer. And then you live in that house, and you show yourself in the film in that house. Amongst that, well, let's leave alone the conversations you have in a controlled environment with your grandfather. Where does what I don't know even how to ask this question. what kind of genre this film is? Is it science fiction, or is it? It's not a documentary. What is it?
Yeah, I don't know. You guys said it is an ovni, no, and not an identified object. I think that is a very good definition. I loved it when I saw it written in your email, because I don't know how to classify it. Actually, it has some documentary things by the fact that, I mean, there is something that is real, which is the materials I use, maybe, and the house as they left it is real, but there's a lot of fiction too, and a lot of dreaming things, no, like onirical is very important in this film too. So I don't know what is the genre actually. I just felt that since I live here, I've been living here for the last 5 years. And from the very moment in which I enter in the house to live in by my own, alone, I always felt that they are here. But I think this is a very common feeling for anyone that has lost someone, but the remains in a house. No, when you feel that they are in their objects and in the walls, in the clothes that they left, they are all around. And especially in this house that is full of work, because they left everything. Not just the prices like the Berlin Bear, for example, no, but they left everything. The written text, the movies, the paint, the storyboards that are amazing. I mean, there are so many materials to work with.
Those tapes are amazing. I mean, for me, really, hearing the voice, but the film, as we said, is not really about your grandparents. I'm trying to find if it's about the feeling of living there, or a conversation that you would have liked to have with Fernando Gomez, and now you are having with him your own terms. You can press play, you can press stop, you can edit what he says and what he answers.
Yeah, exactly. You can choose. You can create your own grandparents, right? Like, since they left so many things, that you can decide to imagine a new relationship with them. No,
fantastic.
Motivated by the house.
I was telling Alberto I'm gonna do that with him, rather than having conversations. I'm gonna record.
Exactly. No, the thing is that, I mean, I had this. I mean, this short movie is part of a bigger project that I've been working for 5 years, which is a feature film. And since this is very hard to make it's very hard to make a feature without money, no? The money is always the big problem. So in the path to get that money, I decided to start making at least like a prequel, something like that, like a small part of a biggest thing. So that's why I started to create this short, because I couldn't stand it anymore. Like I couldn't wait with all this material to talk with me. So I decided to start. It's like life and cinema. I mean, there's not a boundary between both of them in this movie and in the way I live here, because everything is interconnected here. And you open you open a box and you find a cassette, but then you open another box and you find a novel that nobody knew because he or her just wrote it and put it there. And it's like a lot of pieces of a puzzle, and you can just put it like this or maybe like that and do many combinations.
But in that exercise, Helena, something that we love as well about the film is that if when you have a puzzle, you try to put the pieces together and trying to build like a conventional form or an actual form of a castle or something. But in this film, something that we love is that you're not coming into terms with the archive of your grandparents, and the first reaction maybe for many people will be, let's try to tidy up, to put some order in here. Something that you do is you mess more with what is there, and we really like that. I don't know if you could tell us more about that approach to disorganize in a very positive way.
Like no time, and there's no, as John Berger said, no, they live in a timeless moment, no, in a timeless space, and it's something like that. They are like in another dimension that interact with us, and it's up to you how you relate with the deaths, right? So why don't we assume that they are maybe here more than we think, no? And at least in this house, I mean, magical things happens very often here.
Oh my God! Tell me everything about that.
I guess it's more about me than about them, or more precisely, is about them through me. It's a very personal vision of them, and a very not canon way of watching them. Because 5 years ago, when I started to write the script, I started like a very canon way, like, okay, he was born in he made this, he made that, and I was so fake. I felt so fake with myself and so artificial, like, this is not the way I want to do this. So at the very beginning, it was like, no, I arrived to the house and they are there. They never left the house. So with this idea, it started to grow. But yes, let's say like the feature is like the short movie, but even crazier in a way.
Yes. If this was about capturing faithfully the essence of that love story of that couple, congratulations. I feel with my limited knowledge of them, of their lives, this feels like an incredibly faithful portrait.
What?
I'm happy to hear you, because that's my main goal. Not to be not to be linear or to be very clear, no, but the opposite. Like, okay, you want to meet those people were not conventional at all. So you can't do, I mean, you can, but I can't do a conventional film about unconventional people like this, because they allow you to do a very experimental film. Because, see, exactly as you said, if you watch the movies that they made, they are not mainstream at all. Actually, well, some of them, Fernando made some movies that were like encargo, that I don't know how do you say this in English, but
commission.
Yeah, but the rest of his film as a filmmaker, and also Emma Short's film, are out of the. No, I mean, the thing is that this is not a family story. I mean, it is and it's not, in a way.
It is.
It is, okay. It is, but it's a...
You're in your grandparents' house, and it's all over the place.
Depending who's watching.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it is. It is, but at least I tried. What I tried is to what I felt is a link with these two people that somehow is beyond the blood, something like that. So it is not about blood. I mean, it's about blood that I am living in the house, but it's not about blood that I'm doing this, something like that. And since they were like a very particular family, a particular couple also, the way they related to each other and the way they related to me, it's like I don't know how to explain this about family, but I feel it's not like the typical family.
It's hard to straitjacket or no, make of this film only a family portrait, which in a way it is, but wow, Helena, the point is that, you know, this film has the level of mystery, confusion, the rifts that we are looking for in art, in films, and it's hard to see. So we celebrated very much. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. You know, watching it. Hopefully to the people as well enjoyed that confusing experience, you know, of exposing to this portrait, this ovni. And Rafa, I don't know. I feel like, you know, we could spend the whole Sunday. But I guess at some point we have to take the hard decision of finishing the interview, Rafa. You tell me when.
No.
I'm unable.
We have decided that we are going to be long today.
I appreciate a lot everything that you're saying. I mean, I appreciate a lot that you are screening this. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate to talk with you because it's very stimulating for me. Like how I'll continue with this. Yeah, really. I appreciate it.
We'll see. We will try to be mild. No, give you a hardcore time. You know, at the beginning of your day. But we were talking about our love for films that find a powerful rift, that are confusing, that are mysterious, and we were talking about the devil. So probably it's a good point to start for Monstruo Dios. Agus, it's a film that it's been some time since it won in Cannes, since it did the festival circuit. So maybe you have some distance with the film at this point. But should we start from the beginning? How did everything started?
Yeah.
How is your perception of Monstruo Dios at this stage?
Well, first of all, thank you for every nice thing you said before I was listening. And even though I didn't understand that, maybe I should go on right now. I was like, oh, wow, they really like the short film, so thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
I think that something that happened to me with that short film is that since the beginning, since the moment in which the editing finished and it already existed, I always saw it as something else that was not me. Like maybe my other works I am more judgmental because I didn't arrive to that point. I arrived with the short film. So I'm more like, I see myself in them and I don't like that. But with Monster God, I see myself, but I don't see myself. It's like, I believe that something very nice happened and it's like beyond me. And I look at it like I'm like outside of it, yes.
Well, it is there. Totally agree, Agus. With Helena before, with another filmmaker, we were trying as well. We had this tension between trying to deconstruct or do a sort of review or talk about the film itself, and we ended up talking about other meaningless things about the film that we think were relevant. In this case, with the film, with Monstruo Dios, Agus, what happens is that up to a point, the universe is so powerful, the energy created with this film is so unique that almost the story is less important, but is strange and it's hard to put words into what we feel when we see this film. It feels, you know, from the initial perspective of what was the story, it feels like a process of cleaning up, getting the imperfections, getting to the backbone of what is needed here. Is the sound, is the mood, is the feeling. And
yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, if you remember that 7-month process, or, you know, how much of chance, how much of conscious drive was behind, but that process of cleaning up, if you remember elements of that process to get to what we finally see.
Yeah. Facundo. Facu. He's
Hola,
one
Facundo.
of the producers.
Hola, Facundo. I've been banging. I mean, I've been, with messages to Facundo and Agus for almost a year now.
Facundo, please
awesome.
answer Alberto's emails. Since we are talking.
Facundo.
No, you both answered. That's not a problem. No.
That process of 7 months, I have a very dangerous mindset, which is absolutely everything is possible and absolutely everything could be amazing if you just devote yourself 100% to it. For example, if with the same material, I think that there were like at least 20 good things that you could have done. You just have to commit with each one of them. So with that mindset, which I'm trying to relax that mindset because if not, I'm going to go crazy in my life. I started to do like almost every possibility of the short film. Like I needed to really, I realized that the material was very special, and so me and the editor, we started like trying a lot of different approaches, and it had very ridiculous moments in the early stages in which it was a very weird thing, and everyone was like, what did I just do? And it was important also for the process, of course. But the biggest reveal was the cows, because once the ending appeared in the editing room, it had another ending, but suddenly we found a sequence of cows looking at the camera. Actually, that's why I like taking a lot of time in editing, because I feel that there are like mysteries in the material, and like we're like detectives and we have to find them. We had like sequences of cows and cows and cows, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab the cows, and suddenly the cows wouldn't stop looking at the camera because they're very curious. And I was like, stop looking at the camera, cows. And I started cutting the cows away, and then the premiere was left on reproducing, and it started reproducing all of the cows looking at the camera. And I saw that and I was like, we have the ending of the short film. Once that appeared, everything made sense. Everything, like the way of telling the story, which starts with the cows, ends with the cows, that sort of trance, that sort of way in which you certify what you're saying in the end. And sort of, even though it's a weird short film, we look at the cow looking at the power plant that is God, and we all know sort of what is happening, even though we don't understand, maybe, I don't know, what happened to the girl or why they're escaping, which are like things that honestly for me don't matter in the short film.
Totally. No, and that's the strength. You said it at some point it made sense, and probably a lot of people will approach to this short film and will say nothing makes sense, and yet
Yeah.
That is the core of the film. It's a dark, mysterious world, universe that you created in just 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Nothing makes sense and everything makes sense in that universe.
In your short film, a part of the takes, the darkness, the subjects, in particular when you get to the curves in the twilight, it looks very grainy, as if you have filmed it in 16 mil or 8 millimeters. Is that the case, or is something that you do in post-production?
No, me and the director of photography, Constanza Sandoval, which is someone who someday will run the world. She's right now living in Portugal. We did together the short film, another short film, and this feature film also. We are both very, 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 very aware of the style and the aesthetic of the cinematic universe we want to portray. And we are very active about the texture. We're obsessed with texture. We have like conversations that seem that we're talking about sexy things, and it's just us talking about texture. So we do our best to always have film lenses that maybe are like older cinema lenses, and maybe use filters or find a way in which the texture is the less sharp possible. And also we do that process in post-production with the color grading, and also with the film converts, in which we add manually the grain, but it's a very soft grain, and it's like a combination of everything else. And I think that also helps the borders, because it's like, it's not 4:3, but it's sort of, yeah. And it's also, we didn't export the short film in that format. We exported in the whole screen, because I wanted to add the black bars. I want them to be, yeah, they are already burned in the video, because I wanted to have the blurriness in the bar. That is, I don't know, you add it, and it adds for me like that mystique also.
Yeah, and something you said, it reminded me of Rafa, Heliconia last month, but films where, well, films that we can feel in the skin, no? Films that you don't only see with your eyes and listen, and the sound is exquisite, you know, it's fantastic, but it's films that get, you know, you can see a carefully planned element of textures, of, you know, films that can be feel in the skin.
A different connection with the person who's watching the film, and Heliconia, and in your case as well. I don't know how to describe it very well, but when you see this grain, this kind of definition that brings you memories of older times, and then all of a sudden it kind of widens the range of emotions you can have watching those images. And that's why I asked you. I mean, I'm a secretly mad Super 8 user, no director or anything like that. I leave that to the people who knows. But I love that.
We tried, you know, with these Vermuts to have conversations. Sometimes we go to the core of the film. Sometimes we go to the surroundings of the films. But in your case, Agus, it's very hard to put words or to label the film as what is this film, or to put adjectives into this film, which feels so pure and powerful in the skin. So now, congratulations for the film, and thanks for spending some time this Sunday with us.
Of course, thank you so much. I'm so flattered that you liked it so much, and it means a lot, and it definitely gives strength to filmmakers to hear these nice things, because sometimes these processes can be very, very long, and you wonder who you are every day, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I shooting at a power plant and adding meat to it?
All that is over. Now you are a cinematica. Well, guys, thank you for those of you who are watching this broadcast, those who will watch it later on, those who have been watching the films. The truth is that the numbers are kind of adding up. This is the benefit of the online, that we still miss and are eager, rather crazy about going back to an open space with real people. It feels like might be in Scotland end of May, somewhere in June, or not. But in the meantime, it's great to talk to you. It's great to show you films. It's great to feel the feedback and the response that we get from our audience. And please keep watching the films and let us know what you think. Just
in many cases, no, it's true. In many cases, we get to Sunday and people have watched maybe 2 or 3. Some have watched the full program. So enjoy. You have 6 more days. And yeah, as Rafa is saying, we get very excited, as Agus was saying, with her film. We get very excited when you send us a wee message, when we see a wee tweet, when we see someone replying to an Instagram story, about whether it's, I didn't understood the film, we really like this film, whatever, but it helps, to feel that sense of community. Hopefully that we're trying to maintain now for a year, but soon in person.
In the meantime, watch online. Alberto,
enjoy your Sunday, Rafa. Nice to spend.
See you later, guys. See you later.
Adiós, amigos.